This update video is starting a little bit different because once again, I have another flat tire. So we're starting off in the iPhone, but once this tire is fixed, we will get to the actual drive and I'll tell you more about which update we're actually on. But for now, let's get this tire fixed. Now, I know a lot of you say you don't have a spot to go get a tire fixed, but Les Schwab fixes Teslas. They've done mine multiple times. So if you're on a Les Schwab and you have a flat tire, take it to them. Wow, that simple flat tire ended up being a 4-tire replacement. I'll get to that in another video, so make sure you're subscribed and we'll catch that one in a minute. Now, since my last update video, there has been so many new updates that have come out. There's an update 4.15.6, well, everyone's on 4.15 right now. We got 4.15.8, 4.15.10, which we're going to talk about today. That's what the majority of people have been upgraded to. There's been 4.16, 16.1, 4.17, 4.18, which is what we're going to be talking about here in another video to come. So I thought, I need a new rating system for how we go through these different updates to see what is really great or not about these updates. So what we're going to do is this. The rating system will be 1 through 5 on each of these categories, and we're only going to have about 3 to 4 categories depending on what type of update we're getting. So for today's update, we're going to have new features. So if there's no new features, obviously that's a 0. So the next one will be line control, how well it stays between the lines when I do my usual testing roads. The next one will be starting, stopping control, because that's one of the big areas that we've been struggling with lately, was how aggressive it starts and stops at stoplights or behind other cars. These opinions will be entirely my opinions on how I do the drive. It's up to you guys to agree or disagree. Leave your comments down below. However, if you do have this update yourself, definitely comment below on what your thoughts are. Now, let's get out to the car. First up is going to be the update improvements or anything new that we've seen here on the screen that's been added to the Tesla in this update. So visibly, all we have here is a minor cold weather improvements and bug fixes. It's been saying that for the last 4 of my updates, so nothing new about anything specific here. So of course, because there's nothing exciting there, but they do have something written here, I'm just going to give that a 1. Maybe there's some new improvements to the weather driving. We'll dig into that another time. So let's set this update up here. We got a pouring down rainy day. It's pretty bad. Wait, we're going to do the first part of our slowing down with other cars test. Let's see how this goes. We got a red light. That car cut out of our lane. There's a couple things that I look for here. When a car comes out of your lane, oftentimes the Tesla will overreact. In the past it has, where it'll slow down way too much, and then when the car is even 15, 20 feet out of your lane, it still hasn't accelerated again or done much. It just still stops. So that's one thing when I say how it's handling other cars and starting and stopping using autopilot. That's what I'm going to be looking for in terms of improvements. At that light right there, it did really, really well. So I was happy to see that. It was a nice slow deceleration, but it acts differently when it's following another car. So we'll see if we come up with another opportunity to test that out, but that was pretty good. Now here we are starting our very first line test. This is a road we've never been on before in any of our tests. We're gonna get to the other corners here in a minute, but this one has some swervy roads in it, swervy corners in it. And what we're gonna be watching for is how well it keeps itself centered in the lines. There's different types of testing. There's just regular roads like this that have a fog line and a center line. And then you have roads that are like the intersections where it's got lines it has to follow. So like right here, pretty sharp corner, and it handled that, and it actually even slowed down when it got a little bit hairy there. I am going only 3 over the speed limit, so we're not doing anything crazy here. It should be able to handle this road just fine, and it is getting close. It's getting awful close on those insides. When it's turning to the right, it seems to be really hugging that center line. So we're watching that here, like right here, coming around that corner, did very well on that one, so that was actually okay. Coming back over here, we check in the speed on the 45, that's all good. And so what I'm watching for then is I don't want it to touch any of the lines, especially not the center line. I'd much rather it hug the fog line on the right side, cut those a little sharper than swing wide like that, which is a thing that, I don't get nervous if it touches the white line. I get nervous if it touches the yellow line. So we really want to see that improving constantly. We haven't officially touched it yet on this drive, but it got awful close that one time. And if someone else is hugging that center line as well, that can get into a pretty dangerous situation. Let's see if we have any improvements on the auto speed wipers. I very seldomly actually use auto because it just seems to not be quite there for me, but I've heard a lot of you say it is good, so we'll keep those on the rest of the drives and see how those come in. So the range is drastically picked up here. We got a 35-mile-an-hour recommended curve to the left coming up. What I expect to see the car here to do is slow down and stay in the lines, and the wipers to pick up on speed. So we'll see. Okay, hands are right here ready, barely touching the wheel. It slowed down to 44. That was good. So, the slowing down for corners has been a constant improvement with the last 4 or 5 updates if you've been following along. So I'm happy to see that. That's a really good sign. Here we are now on a 30-mile-an-hour recommended corner. We're going into this really hot, okay, it slowed down to 41, so we took it down 6 miles per hour. With the down, it's kind of downhill as well to the right. That actually came out really well. even though there was a truck there, the car could have overreacted, it didn't. It saw kind of late for me. I would like to have it slow down a little bit sooner. It knew there was a corner coming, but it did slow down enough. It just did it a little more aggressively than I would like. We got one more little curve here coming up, but overall on this road, it definitely passed. It just was a little bit more aggressive than I'd like it to be. So here we're seeing the auto wipers here now slow down because the rain has slowed down. So that's good. I got no complaints with what it's doing there. Now watch this road come up here. It's a 20-mile-an-hour recommended corner over a train bridge. This is going to be crazy. So we're slamming on the brakes here. Are we? Oh, man. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of freaky. Let's kind of talk to what has happened there. We went into that super hot, like 20 is recommended. We went into that at like 32, 33, but my tires actually skid when we turned over those train tracks there. With that dump truck coming, that was a really dangerous situation. So it did not do very well on that. I have gone over that with autopilot in the past and it handled that just fine. If you remember that, you probably don't. So that was kind of shocking. So we're going to go back at this now from the opposite direction. Okay, so I got it set at 40. We're going 40. At the last minute here, we are slowing down to 35, 33, 30. Jeepers. See, that would have shot me right into those train tracks. Yeah, that's really disappointing. Definitely made that the last 2-3 times I went across it. It slowed down in the 20s the last few times, but this one definitely didn't. Definitely a little bit eye-opening there. Now we're coming into this next set of corners. We're coming in at 5 under the speed limit. I'm actually set the speed limit down here at 40, so it only has to start from there. And we're gonna see how it handles these. We're looking again for line control. Okay, so I handled that well. I hit the brakes really hard to get around that corner. But the thing with that is, yes, that's nice it did that, but in the past it hasn't had to do that. So that's a little bit interesting as well. And so hugging this line here again, it's when it's turning right that it just seems to really like to get on that center line with this update. And I'm hoping that that's kind of a fluke thing and we're gonna see that change here in a bit. Okay, now we're coming upon a pretty tight corner coming up here in a minute, but I wanna point out that my wipers, they haven't come on other than right now because I hit the manual button, but they was coming down on me hard from these trees and the wipers were just not. I couldn't see anything. I had to turn them on myself. And this has always been my complaint with these wipers, but whatever. So the car's doing great. It's been slowing down for corners on these. Here comes one of the tighter ones coming up here. Car slows down a lot, 5 miles per hour. And then at the last second before it darts over the line, it does. Now here's a corner that we have never once come across yet, never made it yet. The car is slowing down here to 25 miles per hour. The problem is it cuts it too sharp, too soon. See that right there? I can't see around the corner. I had to correct it there and take over the wheel. So that's another instance where, it's just not made for those type of corners yet. And we kind of know that right now. It's not really supposed to do those, but it had been getting better for a very long period of time. And then it just sort of stopped at getting any better. All right, here we are doing a more line checks to see when we can engage autopilot, if we can turn it on or not without road lines on either side. This has gone back and forth to different updates, being able to or not. And it looks like we're not seeing any change. Even right here, I've often been able to put it on right before I go around this tree, and we're not able to do that again right now. So we're gonna say that that is a definite no on can it engage or not. And keep in mind, these are not knocks on Tesla if I say they can or cannot do something. It's just simply an observation. Sometimes it has done it, sometimes it hasn't done it. So you do things over and over again to try to watch it progress and see what they're really doing over there at Tesla and what they're sending out to our car. So don't think if I say, oh, it can't do this, that's saying that it should be able to do it. We're just simply observing what the car is capable of in this moment. For the longest time now, autopilot's done really well, even on corners like this that are fairly steep, but if you're at a slow speed limit, see, it handles it just fine, 25 miles an hour, and that curve was fairly substantial, and it handled it with no problem. I thought this might be kind of fun. We're coming up against a roundabout. We're at a 25 mile an hour speed limit, which is the slowest one I've ever gone into. I've never gone through this roundabout before, and I've got to go straight through it. So we're going to see how this is handling this. We've got cars coming. I'm going to tap for it to go. And yeah, not a chance was that going to happen, so I had to take over that. Oh, look at that. Here comes another one. I'm going to tap to go. Let's see how long we can make it to this one. Okay, yeah, it was definitely telling me to take over. Anyway, what we're going to see a lot more of next, because we're going to go into the city, is how it, or the, yes, I guess it's called the city of Kent, is we're going to see how well it is stopping and starting behind other cars at stoplights, stop signs, that sort of thing. because that's an area that, again, we keep getting a lot of complaints about, and my wife absolutely like freaks out and takes over it every time she's driving in those situations. So well, hopefully we'll get some chances to really test that. So now in the inner city like this is one of my favorite places to use autopilot, because it just really helps you do a lot. It helps you change lanes, helps you stay in your lane. Now I had the full self-drive package, so it's gonna do a lot for me. When I tell it to change lanes, if I instigate a lane change by just simply turning on the blinker, it will find a nice safe way to enter or exit a lane for me. But the greatest thing is it keeps you off the pedal. You know, when you're in traffic or you're in any other type of driving like that, you're back and forth, accelerator, brake. In a Tesla, you only have one pedal driving, so it's really not that bad. You're just on or off the same pedal. But with autopilot, you can just really sit back and let it do the whole thing itself. The adaptive cruise control, the auto steer, keeping it all in the same lane. So what I'm looking for when I'm doing each of these updates is just how I feel with it. Like, here we go, yellow light. The car is coming to a stop here, and I want to see it slow down well before I get in this car's, you know, bumper that's in front of me. And to be honest, that was really good. Like, I felt like there was nothing about that was awkward. That's about the way I would do it myself. And that's my really only test here is it going to do it the way that I'm comfortable with, or the average driver would be comfortable? And in that situation, it was. So here we are accelerating. The car now is going to take off in front of me. A safe gap was created, and we're accelerating at a very, you know, comfortable pace. It's about, again, the same that I would do myself. Any faster and I'd be on the guy's tail. Any longer and the guy behind me would probably honk. So it really is that really was a nice even spot right there. Is it better than it was before? You know, it's hard to say just in one experience. Over the full drive of this trip, the feeling is that it's been really smooth with starting and stopping. I haven't yet had an opportunity, or I guess I should say I haven't had a time yet where I've been like, I have an issue with how fast that stopped or how slow that accelerated. So far this whole drive with this update, I've been okay with it. Here we are coming up on another red light. All I wanted to do is make me feel like I'm driving normal, and I would slow down normal. Already the car sees it. It sees a traffic light. It says it's going to stop for it, and it's slowing down based on the car speed in front of me, keeping that gap. It's a little bit aggressive of a slowdown there, but here's the thing you got to remember too, that it feels more aggressive than you doing it yourself, even if you slow down at the exact same pace, because it's not you doing it. If your foot was the one on the brake pedal slowing down, you would know exactly when it was slowing down and how much, because you're feeling the pressure on your foot and you're the one instigating that slowdown. It's like riding in the car with my wife. When she stops, oftentimes I'm like, babe, that was like an aggressive stop. And she's like, what are you talking about? Because I feel the same way when you drive. So you got to be kind of careful when you're judging and rating the current autopilot, because you got to kind of keep that in mind a little bit. And here we go again, and because it's green light and I'm tracking someone I should not have to help, I do. Wow, that's weird. I had to tap accelerate to go through that intersection. I should not have had to, because I was tracking another car. I should have gone straight through that without my help. Now, if you don't have the full self-drive package, it shouldn't have done that, but I do have it, so it should have just accelerated straight through that. I find it's like 50-50. Half the time it does go through the intersection, tracking another car. The other half of the time it doesn't. It's really strange how that all works. So I spent about 3 hours out there driving around, putting it through all kinds of different tests. Obviously, I didn't show you guys very much of it because I'm trying to figure out what is new, what isn't new, and how it's actually handling things. So let's break down the actual rating. Obviously, when it comes to new updates, new things added in the notes, it was just a 1 because there was a little bit of weather updates, kind of residual from other updates like we pointed out, but nothing new there. So really a 1 is kind of being generous. Next up, we take a look at line control. Line control was fairly good. I'm going to give it a 3 actually though, because there are multiple times that it really got close to that center line when I was turning right. On 3 or 4 different occasions, it was like borderline on it, if not on it. And that is just not really great. If anything, let's make it a little tighter, hug the, the fog line on the right-hand side. That'd make me feel a lot more comfortable. And with the stop and go, I was actually really impressed today. I honestly have absolutely no complaints in all my drives today, all the stops. It did pretty much exactly what it was supposed to do in terms of stopping at a safe speed, a comfortable speed when you're coming up against cars or a stop sign or a light where you need to stop and slow down. So an example of it not being good would have been coming up to it past the point where you would normally start slowing down. You're going too fast, you get that weird feeling of, is it gonna stop? And then it starts to slow down a little bit too late, and then it's more like aggressive slowing. That's what I was watching for, and it didn't do that today. So for that, I'm gonna give it a 5. So I know there are other updates that have come out since this one, as I showed you guys in the beginning. We'll get to those as they roll in. In the meantime, I've got a bunch of product reviews coming up, so make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you there.